A Bitcoin OG just went on national television to tell the world that the available supply of Bitcoin for purchase is approaching zero.
There is a pretty low supply of Bitcoin available over the counter. So you have a supply shortage.
Are we seeing exchanges and ETF issuers engage in price suppression so that Bitcoin won't go past 100K?
There's a lot of folks who don't want Bitcoin over 100,000, and some of it may be the exchanges themselves. And if Bitcoin makes a move above 100,000, I think there'd be a big chase.
Bitcoin hasn't reached an all-time high since 10 days ago. And people believe that there are large institutions holding Bitcoin back from new price discovery with large Bitcoin sell walls preventing it from going above 100K, which is possibly true, but it doesn't matter.
I'm still confident Bitcoin's going to close much higher before year end. It's just a matter of time.
Bitcoin is digital capital in a new wave of technology that's underpriced right now.
It's 0.2% right now. At 1% of the total global assets, Bitcoin's a $9 trillion asset and worth about $450,000 per coin. At 3%, it's worth $1.3 million per coin. I don't know when we get to that $1 million level. I expect it to be in the next 7 years or so.
Today, we're going to talk about 3 catalysts that drive Bitcoin past 100K to $1 million a coin and to $10 million a coin. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Let's go. It's true. There are a lot of people that don't want to see Bitcoin hit 100K because that means we're entering into a new phase of price discovery. Everyone is so concerned about 100K, but I'm here to tell you right now, it doesn't matter. Here's reason number 1 that Bitcoin will blow past 100K. The supply of Bitcoin available for purchase is dwindling and dwindling fast. Why? You have companies like MicroStrategy who just purchased 15,400 more Bitcoin. They now hold 402,000 Bitcoin and are just $1.7 billion worth of Bitcoin away from owning 2% of the entire Bitcoin network. And you have other companies like Marathon Holdings or Mara raising $1 billion at 0% to do you know what? Buy more Bitcoin. We have ETFs continuing to gobble up Bitcoin on investors' behalf. And all of this is causing no Bitcoin to be left on exchanges. Bitcoin's illiquid supply has reached an all-time high, while Bitcoin on exchanges is reaching all-time lows. Approximately 14.8 million Bitcoin are considered illiquid, which is 75% of the circulating supply. Less than 14% of the remaining supply remains on exchanges for purchase, which is about 3 million Bitcoin. That's approaching a 4-year low. Bitcoin's scarcity continues to intensify, and people talk about the institutions that are driving this narrative. But really, it's been retail all along, which is how this typically works in technological revolutions. The majority of growth to get us to 100K has been from retail.
So as this adoption takes place and is capped at 21 million, I think it's going to continue to grow as a reserve for the individual. And the first big group of shareholders actually in Apple were not institutions. It was the retail person that had a brokerage account at Merrill Lynch, bought an iPod, and turned around and said, I like it so much I bought the stock.
Right.
Now the top 10 shareholders show up as being institutional names, like Warren Buffett having a big position. But before then, it was predominantly retail. That's what's been driving the adoption process of Bitcoin. It's decentralized.
And while we're talking about 100K, the data suggests that when we have an explosive Uptober or explosive Movember, that Santa typically brings higher price sats in December. But remember, we didn't come for 100K. 100K doesn't really matter if we're being honest. If you're hoping for just 100K Bitcoin, then you're missing the big picture. Here's the next catalyst that sends Bitcoin's price from 100K to $1 million. Some experts say that this will happen in the next 7 years.
There are $900 trillion of global assets, investable assets. Bitcoin is currently 1.7 trillion of those, which is 0.02% of total assets. It's 1/10 the size of gold. So it has a long way to go here, but at $90,000, it's still only 0.2% of the entire investment universe. Now remember, it's 1/10 the size of gold, but gold's been around for thousands of years. Bitcoin's been around for 15. This is tremendous momentum, but a huge amount of space here for it to start taking some allocations from those other areas. Where will it take allocations from? Well, the obvious one is gold. Second obvious one is equities. The third obvious one is bonds. And then the fourth obvious one is real estate. So it's going to kind of go in that order in my mind. Investors are going to start realize that, oh, this is digital gold. Oh, I should, instead of having my money in in just equities and bonds, I should have some in Bitcoin. Oh, instead of having all of my money in real estate, and instead of looking for real estate investment opportunities, forget about your home, I should buy some Bitcoin instead. Why? Because it's liquid. It's trustworthy. It has a tremendous rate of return over the course of just 4 years. Every single 4-year period, it has a rate of return.
Bitcoin becoming digital capital is what takes this asset class from 100K to $1 million a coin. Bitcoin is being dismissed right now, but this is the opportunity in what happens in every major technological revolution.
Great companies are defined by catching the wave, whether it's the personal computer wave or the internet wave or the GUI wave or the mobile wave or cloud or AI. You know, characteristically what happens is when the wave is happening, you have some people that notice it and they're very sensitive to it and they realize everything's going to change. You know, whether that's Mark Andreessen or Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs. And then you have everybody else that just dismisses it and just refuses to accept it's even happening. Right now, the wave is digital capital. Well, most people don't even know it's a wave. They don't even know digital capital exists.
The reality is there's opportunities for people like you and me to buy this asset because there's egos and people that are just flat out unwilling to admit that they're wrong that give us the ability to get into this asset at this time, right now.
Steve Hanke, I think, really smart, very successful guy. He's been on this show where he's got this sort of cartoon, you know, highly speculative, comparing it to the Mississippi Company, one of the most famous bubbles in history. What do you think folks like that are missing?
I think that the ego sometimes betrays you. I dismissed it twice in my career, Charles, and I've been on Wall Street for a long time, for 30 years, and I just outright dismissed it. I didn't do the work. And I think a lot of these people are either not doing the work or refusing to admit that they're wrong.
As we mentioned earlier, from 100K to $1 million is just a stock market or asset class mispricing. What takes us from $1 million to $10 million is the big play and what you should be keeping your eyes on. I'll share what gets us to $10 million a coin right after we have this note about our sponsor. Every week, we're talking about the long-term price of Bitcoin being 100K, $1 million a coin, to $10 million a coin. Well, if that's true, you're going to want to protect your Bitcoin the right way. And that's exactly why the Bitcoin Way exists. Members of their team will walk you through proper 100% self-custody, step by step, so you can remove all counterparty risk, stop sharing your keys with third parties, and ensure you protect your generational wealth the right way. Go to thebitcoinway.com and schedule a free 30-minute consultation with their team.
What we have is the world is breaking apart. Since the 1940s, after World War II, the world got much more centralized with the UN and the IMF and the BIS. And currently now the pendulum is swinging back the other way, and we're starting to decentralized, multipolar. And so now Russia's over here and China's over here and the BRICS are over here, the US is over here. And what's happening right now is they're all trying to figure out how are we going to do global trade in this era where we don't have a global currency like the US dollar. Each country is now trying to manipulate their own currency. The BRICS are trying to say they're going to start their own currency, which I think is a nothing. It's probably never going to happen. None of those nations will ever trust each other. And ultimately, what the world is going to inevitably fall on is there needs to be what was intended in the Bretton Woods Agreement, a neutral reserve asset. That's what we have to have. We need a neutral reserve asset that nobody can control, that nobody can manipulate, and everyone could agree to that. That used to be gold. Gold doesn't work in the information age. So we need a neutral reserve asset that is compatible with the information age that we're in. And the only option for that, the only option is Bitcoin. And I believe that's where we'll eventually settle.
Bitcoin isn't just a digital or technological revolution. It's going to transform how we facilitate global trade moving forward. Local countries are manipulating their currencies to their own ends and for their own means. That's why this whole BRICS thing exists in the first place. Global nations will be able to peg in and out of Bitcoin with their own currency, but using Bitcoin as a neutral measuring stick for how we facilitate trade and value across supply chains, countries, and innovations in the world. A small example where this could be relevant is here with the Panama Canal, which banned 6 Russian ships because of UK sanctions that they had. Ask yourself, how could Bitcoin facilitate better trade between Panama, the UK, and Russia? This whole BRICS ordeal, with Donald Trump saying that he's going to put 100% tariffs on countries that aim to use anything other than the US dollar, is a result of this growing distrust in why we need Bitcoin.
I'd also like to comment on, this recent Trump tweet, if you would want to call it, about 100% tariffs on the BRIC countries if they start a new currency. I find that really curious because really I think the biggest threat to the dollar being used as a reserve currency is Bitcoin, which we all hear, Trump is a big supporter of. So it seems a little bit strange to tell them don't produce an alternative reserve currency when really Bitcoin is, being talked about by many countries in the world as their alternative currency, some of them getting rid of gold and going into Bitcoin. So I'm a little curious on how that's going to play itself out once we hear all the details.
Are your models pricing in Bitcoin becoming the backbone of global trade? If not, you have just a 100K or $1 million vision of what this could be. I think your models will be destroyed if you're leaving out this big part of the future of Bitcoin's price action. Stop talking about a 100K Bitcoin move or a $1 million Bitcoin move and start thinking about 10 million. Hey, before we conclude this episode, I wanted to let you know about the Bitcoin event of the year happening in Dallas, Texas from April 3rd through April 6th at BitBlockBoom. This conference has been running for 8 years strong, and Bitcoiners from all around the world come every year to connect this digital network to a human network. Starting April 3rd, you can learn from great thinkers in Bitcoin like Guy Swan, Parker Lewis, Gary Leland, Bob Burnett, and others, while also getting hands-on training in Bitcoin beginner workshops and getting access to exclusive events and parties like the Saturday Casino Night. Your ticket is all-inclusive, and you can get $100 off your ticket by going to bitblockboom.com and using the promo code BBB25. That's promo code BBB25. At the first of every month, prices go up. It's like Bitcoin. The longer you wait, the more that you're going to pay. I hope you make your decision to come down soon. I'll be there, and I hope you'll be there too. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking.